Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Going to give people a minute to join us here, as well as make sure the audio is streaming properly. And I just realized. All right. Looks like things are transmitting properly. The training will last approximately an hour and a half, give or take. Usually the load times tend to be the issue. Just as a heads up, some of the pull downs will not display properly, so I may not show them, right? I'll just leave it as it is, but I'll explain what those options are when they show up. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about a feature as they come up, and I'll try to adjust them at that time. And with that, it's 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. So on our page here, you see the dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get here from the virtualpbx.com website. Just look for the blue bar going across the top and click on the login link there. But to log in, we need 3 pieces of information. Right? We need your email address, which if you signed up with us, right, that's going to be the email address you signed up with us, right? Your password, which was hopefully emailed to you, and the account name, which is typically your company name. It could be your own name if you signed up with your own name instead. Now, if for some reason you don't have your password, right, or you simply forgot, can't find it, down here to the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, we have our Forgot Your Info link. You can click on that. We still need your email address, right? That's your unique identifier for your user. And then we need one of these 2 pieces of information, right? So we need either the account name or a phone number that's on the account. You would then click Reset Password. This will send you an email with a link that gets you logged into your user page, and that basically only allows you to update your password. It then logs you back out, back here, the login page. So then you can log back in with that new password. And the important thing there then is you have the option to click on Remember Me. And then we'll go ahead and get signed in. Now I'm using a test account that I log into regularly. So by default, the system is taking me here to the dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, you're not actually taken here first. You are instead taken to your account page, which you can get to by clicking on your name at the top right. So here, this is your user account page. For instance, password, you can click here, you can change your password here. Now this is what you would use to change your own password. If you're changing someone else's password, you would do that under the user tab, back on the dashboard. You could also change your time zone and your language, etc. Now as an admin over here on the left, you also have the account level access. The most common thing that is changed is actually the time zone. You actually don't have a lot of options for like changing the account name, right? You can't change any of this. For that, you'd have to contact our billing team because they have many things they have to update when you change your account name. Now, as I mentioned, this is a test account, so I don't have everything you have. When you are on, as a system admin, if you're over here in the account page, underneath where it says user, you'll have another section for billing. That's where you would find things like the credit card on file, right? You could update that. You could see your service plan. You could see your previous invoices. You could update the contact, right? The person who's getting the invoices, as well as the billing contact actually has control of the account. Right? So they can change plans. They can, they're the authorized person for porting, etc. Now, when you're done here, over here to the top right, you click on Close. One thing I should point out, that first time you log in, the Dash Wizard pop-ups will show up here, telling you what certain things are. But we'll close this, and now we'll be back on the dashboard. Now the Dash Wizard pop-ups will come up here on the dashboard page. They'll also come up under Groups and under Users. Basically, it's just there to give you highlights about what certain things are. Now up here at the top again, you give your name, you can click on that to get to those account pages that we were just looking at. For most of you, to the right of your name, there'll be a little D&D toggle, right? So D&D stands for Do Not Disturb. If you tap on it or click on it, right, it'll move it over to the right and be white. That means Do Not Disturb is active, meaning calls are not going to be offered to you. They're most likely going to your voicemail box. The reason I don't have it is my user is part of an Acd queue, which we'll get into later, but basically those two features do not work well together. Okay, next up we have the little question mark icon, right, the help icon. By default, you will have three things here. On mine, I have a fourth one, and we'll get to that one last. So here, chat with us. This opens up a chat window. So you can chat with one of our support staff members, and they can walk you through whatever feature or setup question you may have. Learn more. This opens up a new tab in your browser. Takes you to our support pages where you can find guides, walkthroughs, etc. The online store also opens up a new tab. This takes you to store.virtualpbx.com. This is where you can order things like a VoIP phone or a router, etc. And then the fourth one, which is the one that won't show up right away, is the web phone. This one only shows up after you've added a web phone device to your user. And then even then it takes you a log out and log back in. Sometimes you have to clear your cache and cookies. But after you've added a web phone to your user, when you come back here, it will be, this option will be here. This opens a new tab that takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. This allows you to use Chrome or Firefox to receive calls. Now, that web page, webphone.virtualpbx.net, has a login page, right? The web phone uses the same login information as your Dash login. Now, if you're using the VirtualPBX soft phone app, that uses a different set of login credentials. Just something to know. All right, next we have the menu icon, three horizontal lines. This takes you to other Dash features. For most of this training, we'll be here on the dashboard. Figure at least an hour here, and then we'll touch on these other features. And then we have the logout icon. Now here in the middle of the page, we have total users. I have 23. Right, these are my staff members who make and receive calls. Then, and this dashboard page is just an overview of your account, right? It's not going to go into great detail. Total devices, I have 34, and a breakdown. First up is Softphone. Softphone is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. So it is a VoIP device. This breakdown where I have, looks like 13 soft phones, right? This includes the VirtualPBX soft phones or any third-party soft phones I might have, right? No further breakdown than that. All right, cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. Web phone, again, that browser-based device. And then the SIP phone. SIP phones are a piece of hardware, right? It's a physical phone, sits on your desk, connect to your network, then to get out onto the internet to make and receive calls. Right, so SIP is a kind of VoIP phone, right? VoIP is the general term for voice over internet protocol. There are other kinds of protocols that are used for VoIP phones, right? SIP is just one protocol. So if you're out shopping, just make sure you're looking for a SIP phone, right? If it says anything else or does not mention SIP, you do not want to buy it for use with us. Right, unregistered devices, looks like I have 2, and that's in reference to my SIP phones. So saying 2 of my physical phones are unregistered. And that just means the system cannot send calls to it, right? It's not connected to us properly. This doesn't tell me why, right? It could be phone isn't plugged in, right? Or someone didn't sign in, someone moved, right? And so now they have a different internet provider. So their network is causing a problem. Any number of things. All right, then we have total numbers. I have 36 phone numbers on this account, right? These are customer-facing phone numbers, and typically. Your accounts include anywhere from 1 to 15, generally speaking, as part of your monthly plan price. So I'm paying an overage per phone number. For the specifics of that, you'd actually need to contact our account services team. If you are a recent sign-up, you can look at the pricing page on our website. If you scroll down, there should be in the grid of your plan, tell you how many phone numbers are included, and then further down what the price is per extra phone number. Now, I have a couple breakdowns here. The first is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial the number and be able to speak to someone or leave a voicemail or send a fax or join a conference, right? Spare number counts as towards your allotment or your overage, but you're simply not using it. So for instance, say you are about to move into a new city, right? That has a different area code than your primary location. You may have gone ahead and gotten a number in that new city, right, with a proper area code ahead of time, but it's not in use yet because the store isn't open, right? That's why you would leave it as a spare number. Or like you have a promotion, right? So let's say we're coming up on Labor Day here in the US. So you want a phone number that's ready for that Labor Day promotion, but it's not active yet, right? Because you don't want calls on a number for a promotion that's not running. But let's say by Thursday, you're like, okay, promotion's live. Then you can put that number wherever you're going to put it. And now calls will go, be able to connect on that number. All right, USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free actually means US Canada toll-free, right? That's an 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So you have a number in Chicago, Illinois, another number in San Jose, California, whatever. They would both show up under USDID. You can have international phone numbers if you are so inclined. To acquire one, you need to email our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. And they need to know the city and country that you're interested in. They will let you know if we can acquire a phone number in that particular city and country, and if there are additional requirements, right? That's going to vary by country. Next, I have conference bridges. I have 3. That means I have enabled the conference feature on 3 of my users, right? So I have 3 people who can host or moderate a conference. Over here to the right, I'm not going to highlight anything, but this is your main numbers. So these 4 phone numbers up here at the top, they all go to the same location, right? They all have the same main greeting. You can obviously have multiple. You can have 1 or none if you so inclined. The conference number just below that, I have just 1 here. You can have multiple conference room numbers. However, they all go to the same spot, right? So they're all going to the conference room. The system will then prompt them to enter your callers to enter your conference room number and the PIN number, right? So this is for your vendors, your customers, or your staff members. They're all calling this phone number initially to get to a conference. The fax box number, you can have just the 1, but this is your inbound fax number. The company directory, right here, this downloads a CSV file to your device. It's going to have a list of your staff members, their names, their extension numbers, and their devices. The soft phone directory, this is specific for the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone. Right, so it will not work with the soft phone on Android or iPhone, but it will work with the soft phone on Windows or Mac OS. But you may download this file, upload it to your desktop soft phone, and then you can see the status of your other users in relation to their soft phones. Right, so then so if everyone's using the VirtualPBX soft phone on your account, then you can see, oh, who's on a call, who's not. Right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our online store, right? That's store.virtualpbx.com. And then the account realm. This is used in a couple things. 1, it's used to program a third-party soft phone or other device. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you need. This is also used when you send a fax out. So on Dash, to send a fax out, you actually don't have to log into your Dash account. You just have to create an email. Right, so your email address used for login, that's what you would use to send a fax out. Create an email like you normally do. So like you send your email to your cousin Bob. But instead of Bob's email address in the to field, instead, you put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number you're faxing to, a little @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send. Right? The system doesn't care what the subject line is. It's not going to look at the body of the email. It looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. You can only send out the one attachment. Again, it needs to be a PDF or a TIFF. Right, up at the top, I have caller ID. This is actually where you set up your default or company caller ID. Now, this is one of the pull downs that doesn't work, but you can select any of your main numbers. So any of these 4 numbers I have, I could select as my default number. And that default number is the default number for all of my Voip phones when they make an outbound call. Then you have the company caller ID name field. This is optional. This allows you to enter up to 15 characters. That includes spaces and special characters that we will transmit as part of your outbound caller ID. Then the system will want you to enter in your company emergency information, or E911, the North American address. All right, and then you click on Save Changes here at the bottom. Now, if you did enter information here for the company caller ID name, when you click on Save Changes, that information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes them roughly 3 business days to update their servers, sometimes faster. But then when you make an outbound call from your Voip phones, right, we send this phone number and this company name information as part of your caller ID. There are many limitations on this. First and foremost, we can only control what we send. What gets delivered, that's determined by the device you're contacting. There are many carriers a call can go through when you make an outbound call. If one of those carriers does not support CNAM, then the CNAM information doesn't reach your destination. The most problematic part about all of this is the cell phone carriers. Your cell phone carriers, they control the information that shows up on the cell phone's displays, right? They're the ones who put like spam risk or telemarketer. Now, for like my carrier, they want me to pay them an additional $10 a month to guarantee that I get company name information on the phone calls that come into my cell phone. I'm not willing to pay that. So I live with not getting company name information for all my calls that come into my cell phone. I imagine that most of the other cell phone carriers have similar policies. They may be, vary in price. So it's possible that the cell phone people that you're calling may not be getting your caller ID information, right? The company name, excuse me. All right, hold music. This is your company-wide hold music. Now, hold music on Dash is defined as after a call has reached a user, and then that user has placed that caller on hold on their Voip phone, right? They press the hold button. But here, you can upload your own file. All right, just click the upload button. Click on Browse to find a file on your computer. The system will play back or accept .wav, .wav, and .mp3 files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono, not in stereo. That's for playback purposes. And you want to keep it under 1 megabyte in size. Click on the up arrow icon and then click on Save Changes. And again, this will be the default hold music for all users right off the bat. Now, hours is actually part of main number. So I'm just going to click on main number. We're going to work our way down once it loads. The main number page can sometimes take a bit to load. So first up, we have main company numbers. When you click on it, shows those 4 numbers that I have as my main numbers. Now down here, I have the option to add from spare or buy new numbers. Right? So add from spare means you're reusing a number. Right? One of your numbers that's a spare number that you're currently not using. You're like, hey, I want to use it here. Right? Any place you can add a phone number. Right? So like users or groups are primary examples. You'll have the option to add from spare or buy new. Now, buy numbers, that just means you're adding a new number to your account, right? You're not automatically billed right at that second. It will just show up on your next invoice. Right, so if I click on add from spare, you'll see available spare numbers. I can just click on a box, click on add selected, and then it would show up here. Buy numbers, you have your options for local and toll-free. So toll-free, you choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with, and then click on search. And then the system will give you a list of available numbers in that toll-free prefix. And you can keep scrolling down. Any number you like, you just click on Add. You see it, I have one in my cart. Here's the number. I can remove it from my cart. I can add multiple numbers if I'm so inclined. Right, but when I'm done, I just click on By Numbers. And the system right now is verifying the number was truly available. So when that list was showing up, that list was dynamic, meaning I'm competing with other people technically in real time. Right, so if I clicked on Buy or added it to my cart but didn't click on By Numbers at the bottom, and then I walked away. If I walked away too long and I come back, it could be possible that number I initially selected is gone. Right, someone else was able to select it and finish the process. For local, it's similar, except that you need to know the area code. If you do a search, you can sometimes get this message, right? That means this area code is exhausted, meaning that there's no readily available or unclaimed phone numbers in this area code at this time. In that situation, you want to know or look up the overlay or nearby area codes, right? I usually just Google the area code. And then if there's an overlay, which is fairly common these days, then you just enter that overlay area code and do a search, right? So 424 is an overlay for 310. Those are Southern California area codes, Los Angeles area specifically, right? So there are many metropolitan areas now that have 2 to 8 maybe. I don't know if I've seen any with 8 specifically, but area codes in their area, right? Some of them are split off from each other. Some of them are direct overlays, meaning an overlay means they have the same geographic boundaries, right? So 310 and 424, they cover the exact same area. Whereas 323 is a nearby area code, right? So it's technically a separate geographic location, but it's nearby. It would still work. Now, process is still the same, right? You click Add next to the number, click By Numbers, system adds it to the account. Now over here to the right, phone numbers have little gear icons. Here you can update the caller ID, right? So you can put the CNAM for each individual phone number if you want to. You also can turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM. So that way the caller's name shows up on your staff members' phones. All right, E911. So you can have each of your phone numbers can have its own E911 address associated with it. And the reason for that is then for your VoIP devices, you can select specific phone numbers for their E911. So that way your staff members can have the right address for their location. So if they happen to call 911 from their VoIP phone, it has the right address for them. All right, prepend, excuse me. This is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID information that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. All right, so you can go enter new location, right? Click on Save Changes. So now the words new location shows up as part of the inbound caller ID to my staff members on their VoIP phones, right? So they know, oh, this is a call about our new location, right? Helps them, hopefully, about what the call might be about. Now, any phone number you don't want to use, let's say you don't want to use it as a main number any longer, right? You just click Unassign in front of it here. And in fact, I can do that here as well. So now I'm back down to 4 numbers. Now, I haven't removed those numbers from my account. Now they're just a spare number. All right, office hours strategy. For new accounts, you start off in 24-hour open office, meaning you're open 24/7. Custom office hours, if you select that, then for each day of the week that you're open, right, put a check mark in front of that day. Then in these boxes here to the right, you enter your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You do have the option here to say that your system is closed for lunch, right? Meaning everybody goes to lunch roughly the same time. If you click on that check mark, again, you set your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time. And then at the very bottom, which looks like it's cut off on YouTube, you click on Save Changes. All right, office holidays. First up, are you closed for holidays? If you will, put a check mark or click on the box to put a check mark. If not, leave it blank. But then to add holidays is over here to the right. And you have your options here for single day, date range, or advanced. Right, when you select one of them, it creates a new row. So then first you need to give it a name. Then in these pull downs, you select the month and the date, right? Then you click on Save Changes. For date range, like I have here for Christmas break, right? You have the option, you then set a start date and an end date. Now, there's no year indicator, so just as a precaution, we recommend that you do not have a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Either have those as individual days or have a date range that ends on New Year's Eve and then a date range that starts on New Year's Day. Advanced is like I have here for Thanksgiving. Give it a name, choose the month, and then this second pull down, you choose 1st through 5th or last. And those are the options in this pull down, and then the day of the week. And then you click on Save Changes. If you want to remove a holiday, you just click on the little trash can icon. And then you click OK. And then you click on Save Changes. All right, next up, we have incoming call handling. So this is how your system is handling calls that come in on your main numbers, right? So those 4 main numbers I have up the top, any call that comes in, how is the system handling or dealing with it? Now, notice here, I have an open hours tab. I have a lunch hours tab because I decided to say I'm closed for lunch. I have an after hours tab, and I have holidays. Now, each of these tabs have the same basic options. You will at least have these first 3 options up here. This 4th one only shows up under particular circumstances. All right, so first option here, call comes in, it goes to my virtual receptionist. This is a link that you can click on. It opens a big old box. Now, first up on the left, we have your main menu. This is what people can press on their phone to navigate through your phone system. Down here, we have Add Route. That's how you create one of these menu options. All right, so when you click on Add Route, it creates a new row. Now, this first pull down, you can select 0 through 9, as well as the star key or the default action. Then in the second pull down, you select where you want the call to go. Right, the Smart PBX directory, right? That's your dial by name directory. You can select to any user, right? So, press a menu option, go to a specific person. Obviously, you have to have the user created ahead of time. We'll scroll down a bit here. Call queues. If you're making use of Acd Cues, this is an upgrade feature. I'll get into those a bit later. Groups. This is an included feature. These are like departments. Queues and groups are somewhat related in terms of queues have more advanced routing options than groups. But this would be like you want a group of people, right, to answer the call. Devices, you can have a menu option go to a specific phone. Now, this isn't always recommended because if the phone doesn't have a built-in voicemail or answering machine, right, that means the inbound caller either waits until someone picks up or they hang up, right? They can just ring for quite a while. We'll scroll down here, and then you have the option to a voicemail box, right? So, press this option to leave a voice message. And then you have the option for a media file. This would be like if you want them to press a menu option to hear your hours of operation or directions, that sort of thing. However, once the media file stops playing, the call is ended. And then advanced call flows, this would be if you're making use of submenuing, right? So 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, that sort of thing. Now, over here to the right, we have our greetings and then your greeting options. So first up, text-to-speech. Literally, you type in a greeting here, you click Update, Save and Save Changes, and the system uses that. It's going to be a computerized or /robotic voice. the system will save it with a generic name, right? In this case, main open hours menu TTS, right? Because we're under open hours, and this is our menu, right? And it's a text-to-speech greeting. Now, so let's say I type in a greeting, and I update, save, etc. I call in, and I realize I missed a menu option. So, oops, right? I can come back to my virtual receptionist. I can edit the existing greeting, right? Click update, save, and save changes. However, the system doesn't overwrite the existing file. It just creates another one. So now I have two files that say main open hours menu TTS. So if you're using text-to-speech greetings, as soon as you finish clicking save, over here on the left, there's a greetings tab. You want to go there, find that file, and change the name so it's something more recognizable, even if it's just greeting one. Right. So that way, in case you need to change greetings and some of the pull downs, right, you only get the greeting, you get the file name, and you don't know which one is which. All right. Next up, we have upload your own file. .wav.mp recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click on, you enter the name that you wanted to show on your system right here in your dashboard. Then you click on choose file to find the file on your computer. Then you click update, save, and save changes. Choose from an existing recording. This pull down will show all your media files, whether they're main greetings, voicemail greetings, or hold music files. So that's why you want things that you can recognize easily. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system says pick up a phone registered to this account. What it really is saying is pick up a VoIP phone that you've added to this account. Now, let's say you just signed up with us and you also ordered VoIP phone from us, which they all haven't arrived because you literally just started. But you want to set up your main greeting. The way around that is under the settings and this one here, allow outside recording. If you click on this to turn it on, now you're allowing the system or allowing you to call into the system with a cell phone or a landline to record your main greeting. Right. This is off by default as a security feature, so that way random people can't try to set up your main greeting on your account. Now, you have a PIN number, right? The PIN number is going to be unique for the time of day and for your account. So that means this PIN number only works on my system from 9 to 5 and not during lunch hours either. Right? So if I call into my system at 7 p.m. and I try to enter this PIN number, it's going to tell me invalid entry. Oh, one other thing about recording over the phone. So for new signups, like if you called your main number right after you signed up, you would get a setting or a message saying that the recording for this menu has not been set up, and it will prompt you for the PIN number. But let's say you already have a greeting in place, right? So you hear that, you call your main number, you hear the main greeting, you can still enter this PIN number, right? The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording a new main greeting. However, in that process, you don't have a chance to change the file name. So greeting A that you heard when you called in, right? The file name stays the same, you just overwrote the content. And I bring that up just because typically during holiday seasons, sometimes people forget about that and then they overwrite their normal main greeting they use for most of the year, right? With the holiday greeting. We don't have a way to recover that. All right. Professional recording services. When you click order, this opens up a new tab and takes you to Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from, different versions of English, French, and Spanish, multilingual options, options for hold music, right, where they have music and then a script being played. They bill you directly, right? They have basically via credit card. They deliver to you via email, and then you would just upload your own file right here. All right, settings. So these first two I explain, or for me, it's easier to explain them together. But number of retries on missed dial means how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. The dialing timeout is how much time the system listens for a second tone or third tone after it hears the first one. All right. So caller comes in. Here's your main greeting. Let's say they press option 7. Right. Well, that's not a menu option. It's not an extension. Now the system, after it hears that first 7, it waits for 5 seconds. Says, oh, no additional tones. Okay. And then it says, oh, that's not a valid option. It says, okay, they get 1 retry. Right? That was a misdial. Greeting plays again. Caller presses 9. System waits 5 seconds. Says, oh, not a valid entry. And then it will tell the inbound caller, we did not recognize your entries. And then has one of 2 options. It will either send the caller to the default action, right? So I have it right here, default action, go into the smart PBX directory. Now, if I remove this, so if I don't have a default action, then the system will end the call and say goodbye to the inbound caller. All right. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. And that just means if someone knows the extension number and enters it when they get to the main greeting, the system will transfer the call. If I turn this off, that means even if they know the extension number, the system treats it like an invalid option. Meaning that inbound caller can only press the menu options you've hopefully told them about in your main greeting. And then lastly, we have the suppress the playing of the invalid entry. So by default, the system will tell the inbound caller that they've made a mistake, right? If you turn this on, now you're telling the system not to play that message. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, right? You click on Save, and then you click on Save Changes here under Incoming Call. Now, I just moved it over to lunch hours, just to be clear, but the second option here, this is your live operator answer option, right? The idea here is that you're giving a staff member, or in this case, multiple staff members, an opportunity to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then the caller is sent to your virtual receptionist. So this pull down, right? You can send them to, I don't know why you would send them to directory first, but typically people start with users, a call queue, or groups. Those are the most common. You could also send it to a device first, and then after 20 seconds, it goes to the virtual receptionist. You do not want to use voicemail boxes. And I don't recommend media just because you would have 2 media files play. Now, this virtual receptionist, if I click on it, is different, right? Because it's my lunch hours. If we go back here, let's say I did it like this. And we'll just say we're offering it to Bob. If I click on the virtual receptionist here, right, it was the one we were just previously looking at. Right. This option here, the third option, call comes in. Right. Yeah, you can offer it to typically a user, group, queue, or a media file are the most common, as well as a device. Right. Or, and then the next most is this one here, skip to voicemail. Basically, you're sending it to whatever voicemail box you designate. Right. And again, you would see this under holidays, or for like a seasonal business. Right, tax preparers, for example, right now, if that's their only business, right, then they just send callers to voicemail. Whereas like haunted houses type businesses, right, those are just coming off of this now. Most of them are starting to open back up. Now, this fourth option here, this allows you to go to advanced call flows. So an advanced call flow would be something one of our support team or product team would create for you, right? You have some sort of customized build, or you have secondary auto attendants that are available in main menu. Right now, secondary auto attendants is a plan specific feature, and we'll be getting into that actually as the next section here. All right, main conference number, click on here. You can add from spare by new, right? You have multiple numbers. We also have the option here for custom greeting. It's a text-to-speech greeting, right? You click enable, and then you type in what you want the system to say. Even if you don't have this enabled, when you call your conference number, the system tells you, will say, welcome to the conference, and then prompt the caller to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number. The main fax box number, again, you can only have the one. That's why I don't have an option to add from spare or by new. Then you also have a fax box that you can edit when you click on that. So first up, this is your inbound notification email. So you enter in an email address. So Bob is getting an email every time a fax comes in. Right? It's going to have the date, the time, phone numbers involved. There'll be a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials my fax box number from, say, their cell phone, right? They hear fax tones. Most of us, when we hear fax, we hang up. That's going to still generate an email to Bob saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Right? So in some cases, right, the email will say wireless caller. That tells you right off the bat that was a wrong number. Right? Someone dialed the wrong number. You can ignore it. Sometimes it won't, right? Sometimes that's the person's name or what have you as part of the information. That case, you'd want to look at your call logs to see how long it lasted or to see if it's a number that you're expecting a fax from, right? In that case, you'd want to contact the person faxing you to find out if they have any details on what happened on their side. All right, next up, we have auto attendance. As I mentioned, this is a plan-specific feature, meaning it's available on some plans and not others. If you do have it, then up here at the top is where you click Add Attendant. You give it a name and then an extension number. The extension number is just for your staff members, right? It's not expected that any of your customers would know that information, but then you would click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you can click on its name, and then you see here it's unavailable in main menu. That's the default, meaning it's a standalone attendant. So like, let's say you have a second business, right? In fact, this is one of the use cases for this is you have multiple businesses, right? So they have their own main numbers, their own main greetings, but you have the same staff people answering calls for your many businesses, right? The other I've kind of talked about is the submenuing, right? One for English, two for Spanish. Those are the two most commonly used reasons for having multiple auto attendants. So a standalone attendant you leave available in main menu. Whereas if you want it to be a submenu option, which is available as an option in other spots on your Dash account, click on here to change it to say available in main menu, and then click on Save Changes. So if I go to my Spanish one here, for example, you see it's available in main menu. Likewise, attendants can have their own phone numbers. You can add from spare or buy new. And then you would click on Save Changes. You can have multiple phone numbers for your attendants as well. Now, for anything that has an extension number, they can have multiple extensions. Right? You just click on Add Extension. If you're going to swap out an extension number for someone or a group or whatever, what I recommend is add the new extension number first. Right? Click on Save Changes. Then you would click on the extension box again, unassign the original extension number, and then click on Save Changes. And then you have the little wrench icon here under Settings. Give it a minute to load. There we go. You notice I have these tabs across the top, right? So these hours of operation match what we set up under the main number. So if you're multiple businesses all have the same hours of operation, you're fine, right? But if you have a business that's open 24/7 versus one that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, out of the box, you're not going to be able to use the same account. In that situation, you want to talk to our account services team. They can go over the options with you. It's possible they can do a custom build for you, so it will be on the same account. However, that usually limits what you can do to change your account in terms of whatever is customized, right? And if it is only really viable to go with multiple accounts, usually there's a discount involved for having multiple accounts, but that's not really my area. So what else? Beyond that, right, you only have the option here for the virtual receptionist for each of these times. So again, you set up your menu option, you set up your greeting options, your settings. You would click Save, and then Save Changes. All right, Devices tab shows all your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, meaning we can't send a call to it. Green means it's online/registered, so we can send calls to it. Black means you've turned it off. Right over here. I just clicked on, so it's going to update, and now it's showing red, and then I can turn it back off. Up here at the top is where you can add new devices. You can also add devices directly to a user, which is what I typically recommend. But first up, we have SIP phone. This is that physical device, right? It sits on someone's desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Right? Some manufacturers only have a few models. Others have a lot. Now, you choose the make and model, right? So we can choose that. And then you need to give the device a name, like Bob's phone or break room phone, right? That's how I normally say it. Some people just put phone 1, phone 2, etc. Then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device, typically a sticker on the back of the device. If the device is plugged in, usually under its status or basic settings, you can find the MAC address listed there as well. But you would enter it here, and then you click on Create Device. The only other thing you need to do in the dashboard is assign the device to a user, and you can do that at any time. Beyond that, you have to log into the phone's user interface. Typically, that means you get the IP address of the phone and enter that IP address into your web browser on a computer that's on the same network as the phone. And then you need to enter a URL, basically telling that phone, hey, go here to get your config file. For the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages, and you're looking for the auto provisioning phones document. That's going to have screenshots and the correct syntax for that URL for each of these manufacturers. And in some cases, some settings they want you to double check. Cell phone and landline are the same basic process, right? You still give it a name, right? So Angela's phone, but then under number, you put the plus sign, the number 1, and then the area code and phone number, and then you click on Create Device. Now, when here, let me go down here to Demo Device here. I'm going to click on the little wrench icon under Edit, Advanced, and then select Options. This is the default settings for a new cell phone or landline. So when we send a call to your cell phone that you've added as a device, right? Call comes in, your cell phone rings, you pick it up. You're going to hear, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you are there. Yes, you want to take this call. Right? It then connects the caller to you, and you begin speaking. That's great if it's actually your cell phone number that you put here. Let's say, for instance, however, you're making use of an automated answering service to handle your after-hour calls. The automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1. Right? So if you just follow the normal procedure of adding them here, clicking Create Device, and moving on, calls to your answering service would not connect properly. So in that situation, you want to come to these advanced settings here, and where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, put a check mark in front of it. What that does is now when a call comes to this phone number, we don't have that message saying this is a forwarded call, please press 1 play at all. Instead, right, we send the call to the phone number. When we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right, so for your automated answering service, that's perfect. Then they can handle the call and everyone's happy. If this is actually your cell phone number, what could happen, however, right? Call comes to your cell phone, you're not able to pick up for whatever reasons, but your cell phone voicemail picks up. Right, with this box checked, right, that's still a pickup tone. So that inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that comes up is this one here, keep original caller ID. Right, so customer Mary calls into your system, reaches out to your cell phone's ringing. and you see a strange phone number on your cell phone. You're like, I've already had 5 of those, extend my auto warranty call, plus, 3 political calls in the last 3 hours. I'm done. All right, so you let call go to voicemail. Maybe you're able to reach it back out to customer Mary. What you can do instead is uncheck this, where it says keep original caller ID. Now, when customer Mary calls you, instead of it showing customer Mary's phone number, go back to our dashboard. It's going to show your main number that you selected here. Right? So hopefully you would recognize your main business number, and then you'd be more inclined to answer that call. All right, soft phone, right? That software application uses your internet connection. Now, on the devices page, when you add a soft phone here, you only have the option to add a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using a third-party application, right? Not VirtualPBX soft phone. But you would give it a name, right? You would copy and paste the SIP username, click on the SIP password box so you can copy and paste that, and then copy and paste the realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to add a third-party soft phone to your system and then program that application. And then click on Create Device. And then from the Devices page, you would still need to go to the Users page to assign the device to a user. You can add a web phone here. I don't advise it because the web phone uses your Dash login information, so you still need to assign it to a user. So just directly assign it to the user and save yourself some time. Now, for the little wrench icon here, for VoIP devices, under Advanced, Emergency Caller ID, right? You can select any phone number on the account, so that way this VoIP phone has the correct information for it. In terms of, let's go with, here, we'll click on this one here. All right, so this tells me it's a VirtualPBX soft phone. If I go to audio, it should have the Opus codec. All right, if I go instead to this Yealink phone here, if I go to advanced audio, it should have G711A and G711U as its codecs. Uh-oh. I think I messed that up. Sorry about this. Let me, yeah, it's not letting me scroll back up. All right, hold on. I have to create a new browser. I do apologize. All right. Now, I kind of scrunched that, but okay. Go back to devices real quick. That was everything I need to cover there. So next up is greetings. This is your greetings manager, right? This is going to show all your media files, right? Voicemail messages, main greetings, old music, right? Now, you have the name, so whatever you've named it. Source, right? Upload means you uploaded the file, right? TTS, text to speech. Recording, recorded over the phone. You have a little playback icon, so you can play it back in your browser to listen to it to see if it's still relevant. You can download it if for some reason the playback isn't working. You'll download the file, so then you can, again, listen to it on your device. You have a little wrench icon here. This is where you would change the name of the file, right, to something you would recognize, or you just flat out delete it. Up here at the top, you can add new files, right? You're uploading. You give it a name, find the file, and then click on Create Greeting, and we'll then add it here. Again, .mp3, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Next up, we have groups. This is short for ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, how you add a new group. You give it a name and then an extension number. Right? Then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. Then you click on Create Group. Once a group's created, you can click on the name. And you can always change the name if you're so inclined. This group call attempts, this is how many times the system will offer calls to the members of your group. Got little arrows here to the far right. You can increase or decrease, and then click on Save Changes. Then you have the members box. If you click on this, this shows your staff members who are assigned to the group and their ring order. Now, this setup is a ring all or blast ringing setup, meaning it's ringing everybody at the same time for the same amount of time. Right now, along the top are my timestamps, and this last one you can edit. The default for a new group is 120 seconds, right? 2 minutes, but you can change that as you see fit. Some things to know about groups. When calls are offered to a group member, like let's say Aaron here, if he has multiple devices on his user, a call from the group is going to ring all of his devices. Right? There's a user feature called Follow Me. The group calls do not ignore that feature. Right? They don't follow it at all. They just say, nope, that feature doesn't exist for group calls. It just rings them all at once. Your users can use cell phones, landlines, or VoIP phones for calls from a group versus in an Acd queue. Currently, they can only use the VoIP phones. Now, in terms of the ring order, I can click Distribute. So now Aaron's first every time, right? Then David, then Michael, then Peter, then Gio. I can change the order, right? I can put Gio at the top. I can move Aaron down here. Now, Aaron's still first, right? Because he's at the 0 second mark. But once I click Distribute, now Gio's first. Over here to the right, I can remove a specific user. Down here to the bottom left, right? I can add a user. Right, so I could add Bob, for instance. And then I can click Redistribute. And then if I want to save these changes, I click on Save Changes. Groups can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to, right? Just click on Add Extension. Groups can have their own phone number or phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new. Now, this phone number is not a main number, nor is it an auto attendant number. So that means it doesn't have hours of operation or holidays, right? This means the number is available 24/7. And then groups have features. First up is ringback. So when a call comes into a group, right, goes out to your staff members, when their phones start to ring, right, that ringing sound is piped back to the inbound caller. Right, that's the ringback sound. Now, if you want to replace that sound, you can enable this feature, right, and then select a media file, right, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, or you use the pull down from one of your existing files. And then you click on Save Changes. So instead of that ringing sound, right, the media file that you selected plays. In rare cases, if for some reason we're not getting that ringing sound back from your staff members, the inbound caller doesn't hear anything. They just hear silence because there's nothing to replace. All right, next action. This to me is the most important feature. You want to enable it. If no one answers, what do you want the system to do with the call? You have a pull down here and you select where to go, right? Back to another group, back to your main menu, a specific user, voicemail box, Acd Cue, etc. Oops. Allow call forward. If you enable this, you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at their normal desk phone and they want to send calls to their cell phone. That presumes they don't already have a cell phone as a device on their user. ID prepend. If you enable this, this is a VoIP feature, right? You can add either additional text or numbers that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right? As part of the caller ID. The idea here is to give them a heads up about what the call might be about. All right, next we have numbers. So the numbers in use just show you where you have a numbers assigned. You can't unassign them here or assign numbers here. This just basically showing, hey, this is where they're at. You got the gear icon here, right? So you can update the caller ID, the E911, or the prepend for any number. The spare number tab, this is where your numbers that you're not using are shown. Now, this is also where you'd want to get rid of numbers. What you want to do here, if you keep an eye up here where it says numbers, right? I have by, port, and sync. And let us get rid of a couple numbers here. Right, now I have the option to delete. So I click on delete, it says, are you sure? Right, confirm the deletion. They were successfully deleted. Now I have less numbers on my phone, on my account. You can buy numbers here, meaning you're just adding them directly to be spare numbers. If you click on port, this starts a new port request. You just give it a name, choose local toll free. It then will ask you, to upload a copy of your bill within 30 days. Right. After that, it will then ask you about like the phone numbers you're porting, the address associated with it, the account number, right, from your current provider. You will give you an opportunity to download a blank LOA or letter of agency and then upload a completed and signed LOA. It will ask you for the email address of the person you want notified. We'll ask you if you have a preferred port-in date. That port-in date needs to be in the future, right? Having it the same day just isn't going to happen. And what else? There's 4 checkboxes that you need to read and check. And then you submit the port. Now, once you submit the port, you'll get an email from the system, right? Automated email saying you've submitted a port request. You should get a second email from our porting team by the next business day, right? That lets you know an actual person has looked at your port request and that we've submitted it all the way through, right? So now we're just waiting for the other carrier to respond to us. Toll-free numbers typically take 3 to 5 business days. Local numbers average 2 to 3 weeks. If we get a rejection, right, we verify that there wasn't a typo somewhere, right, that we have made by chance. Or like in the case of an address mismatch, we check your LOA and your copy of the bill to see if there's 2 different addresses. And then we check, we use a second address to see if that will go through. But if it's something that, not a typo, don't have any alternatives with the information we have available, then we let you know. We don't often get very specific information about the error, right? We get address mismatch. We don't know if the street number was wrong or if it was a zip code or anything else for that matter. In that case, you'd have to reach out to your carrier to find out what the proper information that's needed to port out. All right, users. This shows all the users on the account. We're actually, just so, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, we do record these trainings. So if you need to leave, you can do so, and you can watch the rest of it at your leisure. and previous trainings are also stored on this account. All right, so users, it's your staff members. A little gray person is your standard user. Blue suit is a system admin, meaning they can do all the things we've been talking about. Up here at the top, that's where you would add a user. And you fill out the form, right? So first name, last name, pretty easy. The email address used for login, this is unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address. You create a password for them, and then you enter the extension number you want the system to use. Right? The system made a suggestion here, but let's say I have a new division. So everyone in the new division, you're starting off with extension 5000. Now, by default, the system's going to create a voicemail box for the user that's intrinsically tied to the user. And that means, let's say I created the user and then I added a VoIP phone to them. They can pick up the VoIP phone, dial *98 on their VoIP phone. That's going to log them directly into this voicemail box that was just created. The system will prompt them to enter a PIN number, right, or create a PIN number for that voicemail box, and then walk them through recording their voicemail greeting. All right, include in the user directory, just put a check mark here. You can change that later if you want. Send emails to an alternate address. So by default, the system uses the email address used for login to send notifications to the user, right? So password resets, voicemail notifications, that sort of thing. Now, if instead you want those emails to go to a different email address, you would use this option here and then enter that email address. Again, you can change this later. And then lastly, send credentials to the user, right? So they have their login information. If you need to create just one user, click on Create User. If you have to add multiple, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name here. Right? You can change their name. If you click on Change Credentials, you can change their email address or password. Right down here, you can have the system resend them the password reset email. Right? Let's say like, Aaron here doesn't get the passwords I use. He can never remember them. So here, create your own. Change PIN. All right, you can change the voicemail box PIN number. So if someone forgot their PIN number, you can change it to something really quick so they can get in and check their voicemails. Here's the option to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to be in the company directory or not. Over here to the right, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. The time zone, this would be the time zone specific to this user, right? So that way their voicemail timestamps are correct. Little flag here, this is the display language, right? So what the web page is display for this user. English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout, this is how much time the system offers a call to a device on the user. The default is 20, which is plenty of time for, say, a landline or a VoIP phone. If your user is only receiving calls on a cell phone, then you're going to want to increase this to 30 seconds, even up to 45. Right? So basically, when we send a call out to a landline, right, we send it to that telecom company. They say, "Oh, it's right here." Right? They send the call straight through. Versus when we send a call out to a cell phone, or actually when any call goes to a cell phone, right, goes to the cell phone provider. They say, "Hold on a second, we need to find them first." Right? They ping the cell phone towers, find you, then they send the call through. That delay is why on a PBX system, you'd want to increase the ring duration. Extensions box, users can have multiple extensions. Likewise, users can have their own phone number or multiple if you want them to. Now, just like in groups, this phone number is 24/7. Right? Doesn't have hours of operation. All right, devices. You can see their devices. You can unassign them. You can add from spare. Click on New Device. Right? Same options as before. Now, for the cell phone, there's one key difference. On the user page, down here, it says Use Third-Party Application. I can click on that and say Use VirtualPBX. Now, this email address has a soft phone in use. I don't know if Bob does or not. Let's check. Oh. I've been doing a lot of testing, so I've been reusing email addresses. But basically, for a user, you can add when you click Add Soft Phone, where it says Use Third Party, you can click on that. It says Use VirtualPBX application. You give it a name, click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Then the user gets an email with their soft phone credentials and download links. So then they can make use of the soft phone app. And then the other thing is it's easiest to add the web phone directly to a user. Just give it a name, click on Create Device, and Save Changes. User features. Caller ID number only comes up for users that have their own phone number. When you turn this feature on, you select their phone number or whichever phone number you want of theirs. This becomes their outbound caller ID, right? Not your main number anymore, but the number that's on the user. Virtual text is a new feature. When you click on, you select a phone number on the account. That phone number should be a main number, an auto attendant number, or a number that's directly on the user. And then you click on Save Changes. When you do that, they should get an email welcoming them to virtual text. They can log into the website or download the app, and then they can text. One of the main advantages of virtual text is you can share numbers among your staff members. So for like your main number, for example, so that way you have multiple people keeping track of inbound and outbound texts. Voicemail box. Again, this was created with the user. Transcribe is technically a plan-specific feature. And what it is the system listens to the voicemail and then puts it in the email notification to the best of its ability, right? If someone isn't speaking into their microphone or there's a lot of background noise, then it's possible the system gets the transcription wrong. But beyond that, by default, the system attaches voicemail to the email notification. So that means, your staff members get an email, they can click on, there'll be an MP3 attachment that they can click on and then listen to the voicemail directly in their email. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. So if you have people who are not good about checking their messages, or more importantly, not good about deleting their messages, what you can do is put a check mark here, which will delete the voicemail box, the voicemail messages from the voicemail box after the system has sent an email out. Now, the main point of concern here, that means your user can only ever check their voicemails via email, right? So if for some reason they're not getting their emails, right, then they might be losing those voicemails completely, right? Whereas if you leave it as is, your users can check their voicemails over the phone, right? They can go to the user portal and check voicemails that way, as well as seeing them in their email. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. You would click Enable, and then you need to tell the system which phones to use, right? You click uncheck next to each one. You have little sliders here so you can adjust the ring time. You have your total ring time up here at the top. You can click Distribute to equalize out. You can change the order and redistribute, just like in groups. Fax box, you can have your users have their own individual fax boxes if you want. If you decide to do this, I do recommend that you select a phone number. That way the user can send and receive faxes. You do have the option here to assign an extension. When you do that, it means the user can only ever receive a fax. They'll never be able to send a fax out. When they try to send a fax out, the system uses their personal fax box information, and they try to use the extension number as the outbound caller ID, which will fail. Also, if you have just an extension number, you're relying on the inbound person or the person who's faxing in to be able to send to an extension. Right now, your analog fax machines, they can sit there and listen to it, hear the greeting, and then enter in. Right, they call your main number, hear the greeting, then enter the fax extension, and then click send. Right. Also, some fax machines, you can enter the number in like comma or period to period for a pause, and then additional digits to send to an extension. But some of your electronic services may not allow you to send a fax to an extension. Right? They may not just have that ability. Conference Bridge. When you enable Conference Bridge on the user, the main thing that you have to do is decide if you want or enter a PIN number for their Conference Bridge. They can change this later themselves under the user portal. Video conferencing. When you enable this, that means your staff members can make use of video conferencing. Right? Anyone outside calling into your conference room won't be able to make use of it. Call forwarding. Now, your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own. Right? That's something they can do on the user portal. They can do it directly from their VoIP phones. For failover mode, that's something a system admin has to create or set up. When you do that, you choose a desk phone or mobile, and then you enter one area code and phone number, click on Save Changes. What failover means for call forwarding means call comes in, and the VoIP phone on the user happens to be offline, right, unregistered. The system will do this and automatically forward the call to the forwarding number. So the staff member can still take the call. Customized call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this. You need to tell the system what calls to record. Right, inbound internal means a coworker call. Right, another dash user called me. Right, inbound external, customer called me. Outbound internal means I called coworker Bob. Outbound external means I called customer Mary. And then you click on Save Changes. Every account includes at least some level of storage. It will vary depending on your plan. So you'd want to check with our account services team. If you go over your allotted amount, you just get an overage fee. We don't just cut it off and you don't get any more recording. Music on hold. You can choose to have custom hold music for each of your users. You can choose a file already on the system or upload a new one, .wave.mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Do not disturb. If you turn this on, that means calls aren't offered to the devices, right? Goes to voicemail. Hotdesking is a VoIP feature. You can set up a Hotdesk ID and then a PIN number if you want. Click on Save Changes. This is designed for a shared office environment or even hybrid scheduling where you might have less office space and less desks and phones. So Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone there, hits *11. That turns on Hotdesking on that phone. The system asks him for his Hotdesk ID. Then the system says, all right, calls will now be sent to this device. So the rest of his day, right, any call for Aaron rings to the device that he's sitting next to at desk number 2. End of his day, he picks up the handset, hits *12 to turn off Hotdesking. Next time he comes in the office, let's say it's Friday, Angela's sitting at desk number 2, he says hi, he moves on to desk number 5, same thing, picks up the handset, *11, Hotdesk ID, now calls are coming to him at desk number 5. All right, voicemail boxes. So you can see your voicemail boxes here, right? If they have a name in this third column, right, that means that was a voicemail box that was created with the user. Up here at the top, you can create your own voicemail boxes, right? You just need a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number. You click on Create Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, under Advanced, go to Greeting Media. You want to assign a media file here, or upload one, MP3, .wave, recorded in mono. The temporary is for your out of office or vacation voicemail message, right? So if you select something under temporary, it's going to play or supersede the media file until you set temporary back to none, at which case then the media file will take over. Recipients, now your user voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient. But any voicemail box you create on this page, you want to click here to add a recipient, and then you put the email address. If you click add again to add a second add, recipient, and again until you're done, and then you click on save changes. Then you click on options. So if you have a media file in place and recipients in place, click on the box in front of already set up. Down here, you can choose if you're deleting after that notification email gets sent out. And here, right, you can attach the message to the email. Oh, this is advanced routing. So direct inward system access, or DISA. So this feature is not enabled on new accounts that sign up. It's something you'd have to talk to our account services team about. What this does, it allows you to call in to your system with a cell phone or a landline. And then you log in over the phone, and then you can make an outbound call, right? And instead of your cell phone number showing up as the outbound caller ID, it's your main company number. So once you're here, you enable the feature. And by default, the system just assigns a PIN number. So if you leave it like this, you need to assign DISA as a menu option under your virtual receptionist or one of your auto attendants. If you click Edit Settings, you can click Add an Extension, which I would recommend. Make the extension number out of your normal sequence. Click on Save Changes. Now, you don't have to make it a menu option, right? Now you can say, you can call in, you enter the extension number that only you and or your staff member know, right? Then you're prompted for the PIN number. Then you'll hear dial tone, you make that outbound call. And again, if we go back to the dashboard here, right, this phone number becomes outbound call ID, not your cell phone number. Now, the reason that this isn't enabled right away is that it's a fraud vector, right? If someone figures out the extension number, or worse, right, or more easily, if you have it as a menu option, right? Some people will hit it by accident and then try to figure out the PIN number. Right, and once they do that, they can start making outbound calls on your account and you wouldn't know about it right away. However, if you use your call logs, you might be able to notice that ahead of time. So let's go to this month. So here, under the call logs, the green arrow to the right, that's an inbound call coming into my system. See if I can find a longish one. You see I have the yellow arrow to the left is an outbound call. Let's see here. So here you see inbound call came in and went to this specific device. Normal clearing means the call ended normally. You have a little fire hydrant icon here. This creates an email to our support team with the technical details of the call. Please enter in the information or the context about why you're sending it in. because we may not be able to parse that out just from the technical details. Now, you can always download the files as a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can probably get more information out of these. Call logs. Custom allows you to change your date range, and you can go back up to 1 year, 12 months. Our engineers can go up to a total of 18 months. After that, the data is lost. So if you need your call logging information for compliance reasons, I strongly recommend that you download every month. All right, next up, we have feature codes. The codes you use on your phone or from your VoIP phones to access dash features directly. This is also a web page on our support pages. There's also a document called the phone commands cheat sheet, which also gives you some context on how to use the features, or the feature codes, excuse me. All right. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers you're blocking from reaching your system. You click Edit Block List here, or Edit Lists, I should say. Click Add to create a new list, or click on an existing list. All right, you need to give it a name, and then choose if you're blocking anonymous. Right? If you turn this on, that means if we're not getting valid inbound caller ID from the inbound caller, we block them. Right? If you turn this off, then we let them through. Beyond that, you click Add Number, put +1 area code and phone number, no parentheses, no dashes, no spaces, just +1 area code and number. Keep clicking Add until you're done adding numbers. Once you are done, you click on Save here at the bottom. Click back to Settings at the top, and make sure your lists are on the right-hand side under Selected, and then click Update. And then every phone number on these lists is now blocked from reading any of my numbers, and they get busy tone. Faxes takes you to the fax manager, so you can see the status of the various fax boxes. Excuse me. I don't know if I have any active inbound faxes. Oh, here we go. Right, you see the date, the time, phone number it came from, phone number it went to, the pages, you can download the file, etc. The outbound fax tab, again, you can select one of your fax boxes. If you see it failed, that means failed under the outbound fax tab. That means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. And there's a little icon here far right that you can click on that might give you additional details. However, these days, we just get it's failed. So you'd have to call the other person to find out why. The email to fax logs, right down there, a thumbs down. This means the system had a problem processing these requests. So if you click on the little eyeball icon here, then under errors, you see, oh, they didn't include a valid attachment. That could be they didn't include any attachment. They simply forgot. They could, but valid attachments, or the valid attachments you can use are PDF or TIFF. Anything else is going to fail, right? So JPEG, DocX, etc. Number Manager just takes you back to your spare numbers. Reports actually is a plan-specific feature and opens a new tab and takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com. This is where you can create your own reports, right? So more advanced than the call logs. If you're interested in this, you want to check on our YouTube channel for the advanced reporting demo. Gives you an idea of what can be done. And if you want to add the feature, you need to talk to our account services team. Voicemails, this takes you to your voicemail manager. So you can get to any voicemail box on the account. You can see the messages there, the date, the time, who it came from, the phone number it was dialed into, the duration. You can play back, listen to it. If you click on the box as an admin, right, you can move it to the correct voicemail box, or you can change its status to even delete it. Acd Cues. Acd stands for Automatic Call Distribution. There are two kinds of queues that we have. what you're seeing here are the standard Acd Cues. We also have Acd Cues Pro, but accounts can only have one or the other. They cannot have both. So if you want to see the Acd Cues Pro under our YouTube channel, look for the Acd Cues Pro demo. Now, Acd Cues are an upgrade to existing plans. So it's possible you might have to change your plan, right? So that might have an increased cost, and then add Acd Cues on top of that for an additional fee. Typically, you just click on Add New Cue over here to the right. I'm just going to click on the gear icon for an existing cue. Right? You give the cue a name, and then a cue has either a phone number or an extension. Right? Cannot have both, just one or the other. Cue routing strategy. This is a pull down that doesn't work, but you have round robin, which will equalize out over time. Most idle, meaning whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Least calls, meaning the least amount of connected calls from the queue, right? So like Bob has 5 connected, Mary has 2, Mary gets the next call, right? And then least offered, which is the least amount of connected and missed calls, right? So if Bob has only 5 offered and missed calls, or only 5 offered calls, Mary has 10, right? Under least offered, Bob gets the next call that comes in. Hold limit, you can upload your own media file, right? .wave.mp3. I believe in queues, you can upload a 5 megabyte file. The queue timeout, measured in seconds, how much time the inbound caller can wait on hold. Queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold. This is on top of anyone who's already speaking to your staff members. Timeout immediately at 15. That means if you have no staff members logged in and a caller comes into the queue, the system will treat that caller as if they hit that 3,600 seconds, or whatever you set for the queue timeout. The escalation call flow after timeout is a pull down. Basically, you're saying after the hold has expired, what do you want to do with the call? Send it to a voicemail box, back to your main menu, a different queue, a group, etc. The zero out call flow, if you have something selected here, you're enabling your inbound caller or your people on hold to press 0 to exit the queue. And that means in this pull down, you have to select where they're going. Right? Voicemail box is the typical common one. If you leave it on none, that means they can't press 0. Right? It's not an option for them. The agent behavior. So agent recovery time measured in seconds. This is how much time after they're done with the queue call before the system offers them a second queue call. Force away on reject or missed. If an agent misses a call, the system will automatically put them in away mode, meaning your user would have to make themselves available again to take calls. Agent connect timeout. By default, this is 20 seconds because by default, they should be using VoIP phones. And then you click on Save Changes or Create. Once you've created queues, then over here on the left, you click on the little members icon. And this list here are the people who are available to be in my queues. Right. If I click on Manage Members, I have 2 lists. The list on my left are people who are not yet available to be in the queues. On the right, these are my people who are who can be in my queues. If I select someone, I can then click Add as Member. And then you see Michael Test here is over here on the right. Then I go back to members, or queues, excuse me. If I click on a specific queue, I have the option here to add agents. Right, so I can click. Normally it's click and add to the right. I'm guessing it's not displaying properly here. But once you've added agents to a queue, then you also have the option here for managers. And you select from your available staff members to be managers. Again, this is just getting cut off. Now, for your staff members, once you've assigned them to a cues, when they log into dash.virtualpbx.com, right, they'll have an option here for cues that will take them to this page. Let me go ahead and log out. All right, so beginning of their day, they should click up here at the top, click on Begin Session. They should click on the little phone icon here and select their device. Right, they do not want to leave it on Select All. That has caused problems in the past. So select one of their voices, click on the little phone icon, then mark themselves as ready. No, that didn't, there we go. All right, so when you're ready, you have a little green bar. When you're marked away, you have a red bar. When you're being offered a call, your bar turns light blue. When you're on a queue call, it turns dark blue. If you're on an external call, meaning someone called your extension number directly or you made an outbound call, your bar turns yellow. And if you're on wrap-up time, it turns gold. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So here, I named it 408. I chose a 408 phone number from my phone numbers on my account. And I just set up the rule here. Whenever my staff members dial a 408 area code phone number, their caller ID automatically changes to this 408 number that I selected. And then I click on Create or Save Changes. The other way is this one up here, where I said use a feature code, right? That means my staff members on their VoIP phone have to dial *550, then area code and phone number. When they do that, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. So it looks like a local call to whoever I'm calling. Now, if you do the feature code option, I do recommend the star and then 3 digits. That way you will likely not have a conflict with the feature codes that are built into the system. Monitor is another plan-specific feature. It shows you the status of your users. Doesn't matter what device they're using, right? It will show me if they're on a call, inbound, etc., or if they're away. I can select devices to see specific devices that are in use. Over here, active inbound calls would have each call in their own box and who they're speaking to. Parked calls, if there's an actual parked call, it will show the parking spot number. Recording Manager can take you to 2 different steps, depends on your setup. The base, it will take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Just use your dash login to log in, and you would view your call recordings there. If you have AWS integration enabled on your account and an AWS account and it's configured properly, the Recording Manager will take you to your AWS account so you can see your recordings there. All right, webhooks. This is a plan-specific feature. You actually want to talk to our sales team about this. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. So for instance, if you want to link Dash to Zapier, you could do that via webhooks. Now, on our YouTube channel, we have an introduction to Zapier webinar, which I would encourage you to take a look at. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. This does require some amount of coding capability. So that's something like our general support team generally won't be able to help you with. Basically, you would click on New Hook, you would fill out this form, and then link it on the other side to like Zapier, for example. And then we have the user portal. Every user on your account has their own individual user portal, which only they can access. It starts them off in their voicemail tab so they can see their existing voicemails, right? They can listen to them, download them. They can change the status. Call history tab shows their call history. They can change the date range so they can go further back. Faxes only shows up usable for anyone who has their own fax box, but it would show their fax history. The contact list, this is a view only or read only system, but basically allows your staff members to see like everyone else's name and their extension numbers, as well as the groups, auto attendance, etc. It is not something they can add to. Conference tab shows your conference features. Over here to the right is where you update your PIN numbers, as well as are people joining muted or deafened, playing entry and exit tones. When you're in a conference, the plus sign, you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock the conference, mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the conference call. Also, when you're in a conference, each person has either a participant box or a moderator box, so you could mute a specific person or kick them out even. And then the settings and devices tab. This is where your users would enable call forwarding. Click on the little box, then they enter the +1 area code and phone number. Click on save, as well as see the status of their devices. And that is everything. I do apologize for the little hiccups there and that we ran a little long. Again, we record these, so you can always view this later. And we will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead.